Let's start with Marcus Aurelius, often the gateway to Stoicism for many. Born in 121 AD, he became emperor of Rome in 161 and ruled until his death in 180. By the standards of Roman rulers, a list that includes a fair share of tyrants and chaos, Marcus was a remarkably decent human being. He didn't engage in notorious scandals or unchecked cruelty, which already set him apart. More importantly, he left behind Meditations, a collection of personal writings filled with timeless wisdom. But Marcus didn't create Stoicism. The philosophy began centuries earlier, with Greek thinkers like Zeno of Citium, who taught on a painted porch, or stoa, hence the name Stoicism. He got some help from characters like Aristotle of Chaos, Cleanthes of Assos, and other minor characters from House of the Dragon. What we know of these early Stoics has been passed through Roman filters, so the version we study is somewhat adapted or cropped. Still, it is one of the best philosophical thoughts to resonate with our daily life. Marcus, along with thinkers like Seneca and Epictetus, brought these teachings into practical, personal reflection. So Seneca says, "Heaven is not beyond our grasp, but so simple is our perspective." Marcus's Meditations isn't a structured philosophical text. It's more like a journal. It doesn't discuss something in particular, but giving you practical life lessons. These were private notes, not meant for publication, where he reminded himself of how to live well. Philosophy for Marcus and other Stoics wasn't an abstract intellectual exercise. It was a guide for life, a set of principles to navigate the unpredictability of existence. The Stoics sought to align their thoughts and actions with nature, understanding their place in a larger order. This wasn't about submission but acceptance, a rational embrace of what is. For Marcus, this practice was deeply personal and deeply human, a daily effort to refine his inner life and contribute meaningfully to the outer world. Chapter 1. What you can and can't change. One of the first and most practical lessons in Stoicism is something called the dichotomy of control. At its heart, it's simple. There are things in life you can control, and there are things you can't. The key to living a more peaceful, rational life is knowing the difference between the two. The Stoics taught that the only thing truly within your control is your judgment, your thoughts, interpretations, and responses to the world around you. Everything else, other people, external events, luck, misfortune, is outside of your grasp. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: if you are pained by any external thing, it is not the thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it, and it is in your power to wipe out this judgment. Imagine someone insults you. Naturally, you feel anger or hurt, but the Stoics ask, what's really happening here? Words have been spoken, and that's it. The pain isn't in the insult itself, but in your judgment about it. Your belief that the insult has meaning, that it diminishes you somehow. The Stoic practice is to step back and remind yourself that you have control over this judgment. You can let it go. Modern psychology reflects this ancient wisdom in practices like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. CBT teaches people to examine and reframe harmful thoughts, a process that mirrors Stoicism's emphasis on questioning judgments. When you learn to take a pause, to ask, is this thought true? Is it helpful? You're practicing a form of mental discipline that the Stoics mastered. The dichotomy of control doesn't ask you to suppress emotions or detach from life. It invites you to focus on where your power truly lies. In a world where much feels uncertain, this idea can be a lifeline. By letting go of what you can't control, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering, and in that freedom, you find clarity. Chapter 2. Virtue is the only true good. In Stoic philosophy, virtue isn't just a desirable trait, it's the only true good. Wealth, success, health, or even happiness might seem important, but to the Stoics they're secondary. Why? Because they can't guarantee a good life on their own. Only living with virtue, aligning your judgments and actions with reason and truth, For the Stoics, virtue means developing a rational mind and making sound, moral judgments about the world. It's about choosing to respond well, no matter the circumstances. You could have all the fortune in the world, but without virtue, it means nothing. Seneca put it best when he said, "We are often more frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." It's not external events that bring peace or despair. It's how we judge them. Imagine this. You get a promotion. It feels like a victory. But what if it inflates your ego or makes you arrogant? Without virtue, that good news could turn harmful. Now imagine losing your job. On the surface, it feels like a failure. But if you face it with composure and align your thoughts to reality, this happened. How can I respond wisely? You grow stronger. This is the Stoic stance. External success or failure is indifferent. The real battle is internal, how you judge these events. Virtue is living in harmony with reason, not being swayed by desire or fear. Modern psychology also echoes this. Research on hedonic adaptation shows that material success rarely leads to long-term happiness. We adjust quickly to good or bad changes, proving that lasting peace comes not from circumstances, but from how we interpret them. When Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts," he wasn't being poetic, he was being practical. A virtuous person, one who governs their thoughts and judgments, remains steady. Whether life gives them riches or hardships, they respond with clarity, reason, and composure. And that, the Stoics believed, is the foundation of a truly good life. Chapter 3. Living in accordance with nature. The Stoics taught that to live well, you must live in accordance with nature. This doesn't mean running off to the woods or adopting an ego-friendly lifestyle, though that wouldn't hurt. Instead, it's about aligning yourself with two things: the nature of the universe and the nature of human beings. First, the Stoics believed the universe operates in a rational, ordered way, governed by something they called the logos, the rational principle that organizes everything. Marcus Aurelius often referred to this as nature, or the whole. For Stoics, everything happens as part of a larger order, and fighting against it is like trying to swim upstream. Events happen, some we perceive as good, others as bad, but nature doesn't make mistakes, it just is. The second part of this idea is about human nature. The Stoics believed humans are rational and social creatures. It's our nature to think, reflect, and act with reason. It's also in our nature to live harmoniously with others. Marcus wrote, "We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. To act against one another is contrary to nature." To live in accordance with nature, then, is to accept what happens in the universe while fulfilling your role as a human being. To be rational, kind, and just. This doesn't mean you passively accept injustice. Stoicism doesn't say, "do nothing." Instead, it says, "respond wisely, with reason and integrity." Modern psychology shows that aligning our actions with our values, essentially living in tune with what feels meaningful to us, creates a deep sense of purpose and satisfaction. A life driven by material gain or shallow desires often feels empty. Living in accordance with nature reminds us to step back and see the bigger picture. We are part of something vast and interconnected, and as social beings, we thrive when we treat others with compassion and fairness. In a world where chaos seems constant, living this way grounds you. You can't control the universe, but you can choose to live rationally, kindly, and honestly. No matter what comes your way, that's nature. That's harmony. Chapter 4. The Sage. At the heart of Stoicism lies a fascinating concept: the sage. A person who has perfected their reason, who lives in complete harmony with nature, and who is free from destructive emotions. The sage is the Stoic ideal, a master of their judgments and actions, unshaken by fortune or misfortune. The Stoics acknowledge that the sage is more of an aspiration than a common reality. After all, no one can be perfectly rational all the time. But striving for this ideal is where the magic happens. To move toward wisdom and emotional clarity, you practice. You train yourself to pause when emotions surge, to question your judgments, and to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Epictetus once said, "Progress is not achieved by luck or accident, but by working on yourself daily." The sage doesn't avoid emotions altogether. They don't become cold or robotic. Instead, they master their emotions by recognizing the judgments within them. Let's say you face failure or rejection. Instead of spiraling into despair or anger, the sage steps back and reflects. This happened. I cannot change it. What matters now is my response. In this way, they don't multiply their suffering with false judgments like, "This defines me," or "It's over for me." Psychologically, this aligns closely with emotional regulation. Studies show that people who can pause and reflect on their emotions, rather than being overwhelmed by them, experience greater well-being and resilience. It's the difference between being swept away by a storm and learning to navigate through it. The sage also embodies moral integrity. Their actions flow naturally from reason and virtue, not from ego, greed, or fear. Even in adversity, they remain calm and just, doing what's right for the whole, not just for themselves. This connects back to the Stoic belief in living as part of a larger community, a universal brotherhood. While none of us may become the perfect sage, moving in that direction transforms how we live. Every moment you pause, question your thoughts, and act with integrity, you edge closer to wisdom. The journey itself, imperfect as it may be, is the reward. Strive for the sage, not because perfection is possible, but because striving itself makes you better. Chapter 5. Does Stoicism actually work? At this point, a natural question arises. Does Stoicism actually make life better? After all, it's a philosophy rooted in ancient ideas, written by people living in a world without modern science or psychology. Yet, surprisingly, Stoicism remains not only relevant, but increasingly embraced today by everyone from CEOs to therapists to those seeking peace in chaotic times. The strength of Stoicism lies in its practicality. It's not just a set of abstract principles, it's a toolkit for life. Take the dichotomy of control, for example. By focusing only on what you can control and letting go of what you can't, you shift your energy toward actions that matter. Modern cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, a proven psychological treatment for anxiety and depression, echoes this approach. Dr. Donald Robertson, a psychotherapist and Stoic scholar, notes that CBT owes much to Stoicism. Both emphasize challenging irrational thoughts and replacing them with more constructive ones. What about emotional resilience? Stoic practices like stepping back and questioning your judgments train you to face hardships with clarity and calm. Life inevitably throws challenges at us. Loss, rejection, uncertainty. Stoicism doesn't deny the pain of these experiences, but it teaches you not to add unnecessary suffering. For instance, losing a job hurts. Thinking, "This proves I'm worthless," multiplies the pain. The Stoic response, "This happened. How can I use it to grow?" However, Stoicism isn't without criticism. Some argue that its emphasis on controlling emotions can encourage emotional suppression, but that's a misunderstanding. The Stoics didn't advocate for ignoring emotions. They advocated for understanding them, recognizing their roots and transforming them into wiser responses. Emotions, they believed, contain judgments, and those judgments can be corrected to align with reality. Does Stoicism work? For many, yes. It offers a grounded, no-nonsense approach to navigating life's challenges. It doesn't promise to eliminate pain, but it teaches you how to carry it well. It emphasizes that peace and contentment come not from external events, but from how you relate to them. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the gift of Stoicism, a practical path to inner peace in a world you cannot control. It's not about becoming indifferent to life, but about becoming unshakable within it. You may not control the storm, but with Stoicism, you learn to steady your ship. Thanks for watching.